This is a big game. Like we said, we were on the eve of this USA Uruguay game, 9 p.m. Eastern time on FS1. And as we've said since the debacle back on Thursday against Panama, it's not necessarily must win, but it's must result. And for all intents and purposes, it's a must-win game against a very, very good team, one of the elites for a lot of people, one of the teams that they think is, the best in this tournament and certainly has potential to win this tournament. So Gregg Berhalter and company are up against it. We'll talk a whole lot about it all through tomorrow in terms of pregame, and obviously we'll be doing stuff during the Euro coverage that we have. We don't know the lineup. We do know, obviously, because of Tim Weah's red card, that there is going to have to be at least one change. We also don't know the situation with Matt Turner in goal, who only played a half. So we'll see if there is a goalkeeping change, and we'll see what happens when it comes to that right side of the field. I was thinking about different lineups and different possibilities out there, and it occurred to me that, over the last cycles, we've talked about how far we've come and how much talent we have and how much depth we have and all these different pathways. And yet, when it really comes down to it, Mosse, tomorrow, there's not that many options. There really isn't. I mean, when it comes to players that either can step in and can at least approximate any players that steps out. And Timmy Weah, taking away the red card, but still he has been, I think, one of the most consistent players for this national team out there on that right-hand side. And there's nobody, let's be honest, that has even come close to approximating that. And there's nobody on the bench that can do it. So, that's a problem. And it's, even if Tim Weah was there, it's still a problem because I don't think that there's game changers on that bench that can come in a substitute capacity and really change it. So, this isn't me being Debbie Downer by any stretch of the imagination. It's just the reality of the situation. I also was heartened to hear Christian Pulisic kind of walk back his comments about having to play the game of their lives, because they don't. Individually and collectively, they don't have to do that. They just have to play a good game. I do think that they have to meet this team when it comes to the physical part. And again, that's not doing stupid things and leaving your feet and risking red cards and all that kind of stuff. But the physicality of the game tomorrow, that has to be established early. And so people like Weston McKennie in the tackle. And from the moment that whistle blows, the opposition, in this case Uruguay, they need to understand that they are in a game and that they are in a dogfight. Again, it doesn't have to be pretty, doesn't have to be romantic. Also doesn't mean that you can't be pretty and romantic. But first and foremost, you must establish the fact that you're not in Kansas anymore. You are, but it's okay. And you are in for a fight. And that's, I think that's important. That's about mentality, and that's about the willingness to do it. I do think that we have the players to be able to do that. I don't know. Thoughts on this game?
No Marcelo Bielsa on the touchline, which I'm disappointed about. He got himself suspended. Another manager suspended for his
You're
team.
nobody unless you've been suspended as a manager at Copa America.
And, I love to watch him during these games, so I won't get a chance to do that. I read a couple of Uruguayan newspapers today to try to glean what lineup they're going to put out. It sounds like it won't be mass rotations, but they might rotate a little bit here and there. Although all the players that were mentioned as possibilities for coming in are very good. Jose Jimenez at the back, a guy who plays for Atletico Madrid. Bentoncourt might come in for Ugarte in the midfield. Arrascaeta potentially for De La Cruz, which would be a Flamengo on Flamengo switch. So it is going to be a good lineup. And if it's Darwin Nunez up there, he has scored in his last 7 games for Uruguay, which equals a record by this great Uruguayan player, Hector Scaroni from the 1920s. He can break the record tomorrow. And that's my biggest concern for the U.S. I think the U.S. going forward can cause Uruguay problems, but at the back, especially if it's Horvath in goal, and we've seen the center backs be shaky. We saw what happened in that friendly against Colombia. Boy, against that Uruguay attack with the intensity and the waves that come at you, that could be a problem.
All right, well, they're up against it. Should we do my one for the road and get out of here, get some sleep?
Let's do it.
All right. It is time for my one for the road. And, I thought about, sometimes I will, I don't know if you've noticed, Mosse, I'll get on the old television and I'll scream and yell about different things and, talk about what I want to see and talk about what's not happening and what's good and what's bad. And I started to think about, what I would tell these players. Not that they listen to me or not that I could necessarily motivate them, but I tried to think about going into tomorrow and going into this very, very important game. And I will state again that this is not just important for the program and for this team. I think this is the most important game in Gregg Berhalter's tenure as the coach of the men's national team, and especially as it relates to him going forward. That's not to say that if they don't get through that he is going to be fired. I just think that this is a real litmus test, and I also think an opportunity for him. But when we're talking about this team tomorrow and this important game, you know, I think about the world in which we live in and the country in which we live in. And, you know, we live in interesting times, my friend. We live in dangerous times. We live in sobering times, but we also live in times where very little unites us. All right. And it's a situation that we have created. I don't think any of us like it, but it's the reality of the situation, which means that when we do have moments and we do have things that can bring us together, they take on, I think, even more significance. And this team tomorrow, in this little window, has a responsibility, but also an opportunity to unite the country in a moment. And, you know, if and when they are able to do it, it transcends soccer. And people want to be united, even if it's just for 2 hours. And then we can go back about fighting about different things. But nothing does this better than sport. And nothing, I think, does it better than a sport that is representative of the country. And in this case, it's what I feel is the greatest country in the world. And you won't have a lot of opportunities to do that. Many people never have opportunities to do that in life. And these young men going out there tomorrow in this game, I do think that it's important for them to feel the moment and to feel the potential for something great and to feel the potential for something historic. Don't be overwhelmed by it, because that can cause you to do things that you shouldn't do. But appreciate it and respect the fact that you are being given this gift and this opportunity tomorrow. And recognize that there's a lot of us out here, many of us that have been around for a long time, that do believe that you can do big things, that do believe that you can do things that are historic, that do believe that you can do things that have not been done in the past. And yes, a lot of times I'll talk about, you know, you've been given so much in terms of resources and opportunities. And I remain incredibly proud that you have. And with that comes an expectation that you do more. And don't shirk that responsibility. You know, embrace it, because this is going to be fun tomorrow. Because what's at stake here, Mosse? We have, as we've said, you know, today when we're talking about Mexico, we have drama. Everybody loves to see drama unfold in a sports type of form or any place else. We have pressure. We have pressure on these players to perform and to provide that moment that unites and excites. And let's be honest, we have consequences. All right? And whether it's for the practical consequences of going out of a tournament and being grouped, or the consequences for a coach, or the consequences for the way that we look at this team going forward into what is supposed to be an incredible 2 years leading up to the most important moment in our soccer's history, which is the summer of 2026. So all of that is to say is that they come and go very, very fast. And for me, if I was in front of them, I would beg them not to waste this opportunity. And you know what? They might play the best game of their life. Who knows? And they still might lose. But if at the end of the game, they can all look back and say, you know what? We did everything that we possibly could. And it doesn't mean that there's not going to be consequences, but we did everything we possibly could. And in watching that, we brought people together, and people united around this country, or united around this flag, and united around this team through the lens of soccer. That's a good thing. And you can inspire. You can inspire me, even though I've been around for a long time and I've seen a lot of things, and you can inspire people that have never seen you kick a ball in what you do in that window. So ultimately, I hope that would resonate. Gregg Berhalter and his staff have to motivate them as they see fit. But I know I can scream and yell and do all that. sometimes that's just volume. And sometimes you just have to talk about, what you feel is on offer. And I would give my left, to be in that moment, to have this opportunity. Yes, to have this responsibility.
You did have this moment. 1993 Copa America group stage. You lost 1-0 to Uruguay. Do you remember that game?
Vaguely. But I will say, in terms of doing things that have not been done before, it should be said that we have beaten the likes of Argentina in a competitive tournament. We have beaten the likes of Brazil in a competitive tournament. We have beaten the likes of Colombia in a competitive tournament. So this is not far-fetched. This would be a moment of celebration, and rightfully so, but this would not be the 1980 Olympic hockey team, all right? This would actually be these players and this team living up to what I think a lot of us believe is something better than we have had in the past. You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops twice a week right here on my very own YouTube page. The only way to stay up to date is to hit that subscribe button down below. Size the day, and see you soon.